In the dusty Victorian house on Maple Street, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator was about to make the most defiant decision of her life. What started as quiet grief took a shocking turn when she faced her manipulative family's true nature. Luna Davis wasn't your typical people-pleaser. For years, she'd been the family's designated fixer, known for sacrificing her needs to keep everyone comfortable. When she inherited her grandmother's $400,000 house, she had no idea she was walking into a battlefield disguised as family loyalty. Luna's defiance would shatter every relationship she thought she understood, exposing decades of greed and manipulation. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Luna Davis sat in the back row of the funeral home, her black dress still creased from being hastily pulled from the closet that morning. The reality of Grandma Rose's death hadn't fully settled. 3 days ago, she'd been holding Rose's hand, listening to stories about the old neighborhood. Now she stared at the closed casket, surrounded by relatives who'd materialized like vultures after a storm. The service had been beautiful, filled with hymns Rose would have hummed along to. But Luna noticed the empty spaces where family should have been. Aunt Patricia sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, though Luna couldn't remember the last time Patricia had visited Rose. David and Jennifer flanked their mother, both checking their phones intermittently during the pastor's eulogy. Her own mother, Carol, sat beside Luna with the rigid posture of someone trying to hold herself together. Carol had always been caught between Rose and Patricia, never quite fitting with either. Luna understood that feeling. She'd spent her life being the family's designated fixer, smoothing over conflicts and keeping everyone comfortable. After the burial, the family gathered back at Patricia's house. Luna found herself in the corner of the living room, nursing a cup of coffee she didn't want, watching relatives she barely knew pick at casseroles and share memories that felt more obligatory than genuine. "Luna, dear." The voice belonged to Mr. Harrison, Rose's lawyer. He appeared beside her with a manila envelope clutched in his weathered hands. "Could I have a word?" She followed him to Patricia's study, aware of the curious glances from the other family members. Mr. Harrison closed the door behind them and gestured for her to sit. "Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes," he began, pulling documents from the envelope. "She updated her will 6 months ago." Luna nodded, expecting to hear about the small inheritance she'd always assumed might come her way. Maybe some jewelry, perhaps a few $1,000s. "She's left you the house," Mr. Harrison said simply. "The Victorian on Maple Street, everything in it. The property is valued at approximately $400,000. The words didn't compute immediately. Luna stared at him, her coffee cup growing cold in her hands. "I'm sorry, what?" "The entire estate goes to you, Miss Davis. The house, its contents, and a small savings account. Your grandmother was quite clear that this was her wish." Luna's mind reeled. She'd expected Rose to divide things among the family, maybe leave the house to Patricia as the eldest daughter. But what about everyone else? "Aunt Patricia, my cousins. There are small monetary gifts for other family members, but the house and the bulk of the estate are yours." Mr. Harrison's expression softened. "She also left this for you specifically." He handed her a sealed envelope with her name written in Rose's careful handwriting. Luna's throat tightened as she recognized the distinctive loops and curves of her grandmother's script. Before she could process what was happening, the study door burst open. Patricia stood in the doorway, her earlier grief replaced by something sharper. "Well?" Patricia's voice carried an edge of expectation. "How are we dividing everything?" Mr. Harrison stood, gathering his papers. "Mrs. Patterson, as I explained to you yesterday, the will is quite specific. Miss Davis has inherited the primary estate." Patricia's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, then something approaching rage. "That can't be right. I'm Rose's daughter. I'm the eldest." "The will is legally binding and was witnessed appropriately," Mr. Harrison replied calmly. "Miss Davis, I'll need you to come by my office next week to handle the paperwork." He left Luna alone with Patricia, whose composure was rapidly cracking. "This is ridiculous," Patricia said, her voice rising. You spend time with her, yes, but I'm her daughter. That house should go to family. I am family, Luna said quietly, though her voice wavered. You know what I mean. Patricia's tone sharpened. You're not equipped to handle a property like that. The maintenance alone will bankrupt you. Rose wasn't thinking clearly at the end. We all know how confused she'd become. Luna wanted to protest that Rose had been sharp as ever, but Patricia was already moving toward the door. David, Jennifer, we need to talk. Within minutes, Luna found herself facing a family tribunal in Patricia's living room. Other relatives had quietly dispersed, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Only Carol remained, sitting uncomfortably on the edge of the couch. This is obviously a mistake, David said, not bothering with pleasantries. He'd inherited Patricia's directness, but none of her subtlety. Grandma Rose was old, probably didn't understand what she was signing. She understood perfectly, Luna replied, surprised by the firmness in her own voice. Jennifer, ever the victim, dabbed at her eyes. I just don't understand why she'd leave everything to you. We're all family. My children were her great-grandchildren, too. Luna noticed that Jennifer's children, now teenagers, hadn't even attended the funeral. The house is too much for you, Patricia continued, her tone shifting to something that might have been mistaken for concern. You work in marketing. What do you know about property management? The roof needs work. The plumbing is ancient. You'd be house poor within a year. Carol finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe we should think about what Rose would have wanted. Patricia turned on her sister. Rose wasn't thinking straight. She was 93, Carol. She probably forgot she had other grandchildren. That stung. Luna had been the only one visiting Rose regularly, but Patricia made it sound like an accident rather than a choice. We could sell it, David suggested, his tone casual as if discussing the weather. Split the proceeds fairly among everyone. That way Luna still benefits, but so does the rest of the family. It would be the practical thing, Jennifer added. I mean, what are you going to do with a house that big? You don't even have children. The comment hung in the air like a slap. Luna had always been sensitive about being single at 28, about the family's subtle implications that her life was somehow incomplete. I need to think, Luna said, standing abruptly. This is all very sudden. Patricia's expression softened, sensing victory. Of course, dear, take your time. But really, selling is the only sensible option. I can recommend some excellent real estate agents. Luna escaped to her car, Rose's letter still clutched in her hand. She sat in Patricia's driveway for several minutes, her hands shaking as she opened the envelope. My dear Luna, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably sitting with vultures circling. I know my family, sweetheart. I know exactly what they'll say and how they'll make you feel. I didn't leave you the house by accident. I left it to you because you're the only one who ever saw it as home rather than real estate. You're the only one who understood that some things are worth more than their market value. Don't let them bully you into giving up what's yours. There's more to this house than you know, and more to your inheritance than money. Trust your instincts, Luna. They've always been better than you give yourself credit for. The house has secrets, and so did I. When you're ready, you'll find them. But first, you need to decide if you're brave enough to fight for what matters. All my love, Grandma Rose, P.S. Check the loose floorboard under my bedroom window. Some things are better hidden until the right person finds them. Luna read the letter twice, Rose's voice echoing in her memory. She could almost hear her grandmother's laugh, the way she'd chuckle when she knew something others didn't. By the time Luna returned to Patricia's house to say goodbye, the family had clearly been talking. Their expressions were expectant, hopeful. Patricia approached her with a folder. I took the liberty of getting some preliminary information from a realtor friend, Patricia said, her tone carefully casual. The market's very good right now. We could probably get asking price, maybe more. Luna took the folder without opening it. I said I need time to think. Of course, Patricia replied, though her smile was strained. But Luna, you have to be practical. Rose would want what's best for the whole family. As Luna drove home to her small apartment, Rose's words echoed in her mind. Trust your instincts. Her instincts were telling her that Patricia's sudden concern for family unity had more to do with dollar signs than sentiment. She thought about the house, the way afternoon light slanted through the tall windows, the creek that ran behind the property, the garden Rose had tended for decades. She remembered Saturday mornings spent in Rose's kitchen, learning to make pie crust and listening to stories about the old days. But she also heard the family's voices, their reasonable arguments about practicality and fairness. Patricia wasn't wrong about the maintenance costs or Luna's inexperience with property ownership. Maybe selling really was the sensible thing to do. That night, Luna lay awake staring at the ceiling, Rose's letter on her nightstand. She'd agreed to think about the family's proposal, but something deep in her chest was already rebelling against the idea. For the first time in her life, she'd been given something that was unequivocally hers, and she wasn't sure she was ready to let it go. The loose floorboard Rose had mentioned nagged at her thoughts. What secrets could her quiet, proper grandmother have possibly kept? And why did Luna feel like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, with her family urging her to jump while her instincts screamed at her to step back? Outside her apartment window, the city hummed its endless song, but Luna found herself thinking of a different sound. The creak of old floorboards and the whisper of wind through Victorian eaves. Somewhere across town, an empty house waited in the darkness, holding secrets that might change everything she thought she knew about family, loyalty, and what it truly meant to come home. The phone calls started the next morning. Luna was barely awake, still in her pajamas with Rose's letter spread on her kitchen table, when her cell phone buzzed. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. Luna, sweetheart, I hope you slept well. Patricia's voice carried that particular tone she used when she wanted something, syrup sweet with steel underneath. I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, and I really think we should move quickly on this house situation. Luna rubbed her eyes, the weight of yesterday's revelation still settling in her chest. Good morning, Aunt Patricia. I told you I need time to think. Of course, dear, but time is money in real estate. My friend Janet, you remember Janet from church? She says the spring market is absolutely booming. If we list it now, we could have offers by next week. The casual use of we made Luna's jaw clench. I haven't decided anything yet. Luna. Patricia's tone shifted, becoming more serious. I know this feels overwhelming, but you have to be practical. You can't possibly afford the upkeep on that old place. The property taxes alone are probably more than your rent. Before Luna could respond, Patricia continued, I'm calling a family meeting for tonight, 7 o'clock at my house. We need to discuss this properly, as a family. The line went dead before Luna could object. By the time Luna arrived at Patricia's house that evening, it was clear the meeting had been carefully orchestrated. David and Jennifer sat on opposite ends of the couch like bookends, while Patricia commanded the center of the room from her chair. Carol perched nervously on a side chair, avoiding eye contact. Thank you for coming, Patricia began, as if Luna had had a choice. I know yesterday was emotional for all of us, but now we need to make some practical decisions. Jennifer leaned forward, her expression carefully crafted to appear concerned. Luna, we're worried about you. Taking on a house like that? It's a huge responsibility. I appreciate your concern, Luna said, settling into the only remaining chair, which happened to be directly across from Patricia. She noticed the deliberate positioning. They'd arranged themselves like a tribunal. David pulled out a folder thick with papers. I took the liberty of doing some research. The average annual maintenance cost for a Victorian home of that size is between $15,000 and $20,000. That's not including major repairs. He slid a printed spreadsheet across the coffee table. Luna glanced at it, but didn't pick it up. Where did you get these numbers? She asked. I have connections in real estate, David replied smoothly. The point is, you'd be hemorrhaging money from day one. Patricia nodded approvingly at her son. David's always been good with numbers, and he's right. You'd be house poor within a year. What about what Rose wanted? Luna asked quietly. The room fell silent for a moment. Jennifer was the first to speak. Grandma Rose wasn't herself at the end, she said gently. You know that, Luna. She was confused, making decisions that didn't make sense. She seemed perfectly clear to me every time I visited, Luna replied, her voice steady despite the anger building in her chest. That's just it, Patricia interjected. You were there all the time. She became dependent on you, probably felt guilty about it. This inheritance, it's probably her way of trying to pay you back for your time. The implications stung. As if Luna's relationship with Rose had been transactional, as if her grandmother's love could be reduced to payment for services rendered. Carol finally spoke up. Maybe we should consider what Luna wants. What Luna wants isn't the issue, David interrupted. It's about what makes financial sense. And keeping that house doesn't. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Patricia leaned forward, her expression earnest. Luna, sweetheart, I know you loved Rose. We all did. But the best way to honor her memory is to be smart about this gift she's given you. By selling it? By not letting it become a burden that ruins your life. Patricia's voice grew more urgent. Do you want to spend the next 10 years struggling to pay for repairs on a house you can't afford? Is that what Rose would have wanted for you? Luna felt the familiar pressure, the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. This was how it had always been. The family presenting their desires as logical conclusions, making her feel selfish for wanting anything different. Jennifer pulled out her phone and showed Luna a photo of 2 young children. These are my kids, Luna. Rose's great-grandchildren. The money from the house could help pay for their college education. Don't you think she would have wanted that? Luna stared at the photo of children she'd seen maybe twice in the past 5 years. When was the last time you brought them to visit her? Jennifer's face flushed. That's not fair. You know how busy we are. I know I was there every Saturday for 3 years, Luna said, her voice rising slightly. I know Rose asked about you, about your kids, and I had to keep making excuses for why you never came. That's enough, Patricia snapped. We're not here to assign blame. We're here to make a decision that benefits everyone. David leaned back, his expression hardening. Look, Luna, we're trying to be nice about this, but legally speaking, there might be grounds to contest the will. Rose was elderly, possibly not of sound mind. Are you threatening me? Luna asked, shocked by his brazenness. I'm just saying that a protracted legal battle would be expensive for everyone, David replied smoothly. Much easier to handle this as a family. Carol looked stricken. David, you can't be serious. I'm being practical, Aunt Carol. If Luna insists on being unreasonable, we might have to explore other options. Luna felt something shift inside her chest, a hardening that she'd never experienced before. These people, her family, were sitting in judgment of her, threatening her, all while pretending to have her best interests at heart. I think I should go, Luna said, standing abruptly. Patricia rose as well, her expression shifting to concern. Luna, please don't leave upset. We're just trying to help you see reason. Reason? Luna turned back to face them. You want to know what's reasonable? Rose left me that house for a reason. She could have left it to any of you, but she didn't. Maybe instead of assuming she was confused, you should ask yourselves why. Jennifer's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold underneath. She left it to you because you manipulated a lonely old woman. Jennifer, Carol gasped, but the words hung in the air, raw and ugly. Luna felt as if she'd been slapped. Is that really what you think? Luna asked quietly. The silence that followed was answer enough. Luna walked to the door, her hands trembling with a mixture of hurt and rage. She paused with her hand on the knob. I'll let you know my decision, she said without turning around. Luna, wait, Patricia started. But Luna was already gone, the cool evening air hitting her face as she stepped onto the porch. Behind her, she could hear Patricia's voice, sharp with frustration. Well, that went well. As Luna drove home, Jennifer's accusation echoed in her mind. Manipulated a lonely old woman. The cruelty of it took her breath away. She thought of all those Saturday afternoons, the way Rose's face would light up when Luna arrived, the stories they'd shared, the genuine love between them. Had her family always seen her this way, as calculating and manipulative? Or was this just what they told themselves to justify their greed? By the time Luna reached her apartment, something fundamental had shifted inside her. For 28 years, she'd bent herself into whatever shape the family needed, absorbed their criticism, smoothed over their conflicts. She'd made herself smaller so they could feel bigger. Not anymore. Luna pulled out her laptop and began typing an email to her supervisor, her fingers moving with surprising certainty. She was taking indefinite leave, effective immediately. Personal family matter. She'd use her vacation time and savings to figure out the rest. Then she started packing. The house on Maple Street had been empty too long. It was time for someone who actually loved it to come home. Luna stood in the driveway of Rose's Victorian house at 7 in the morning, her car packed with hastily gathered belongings. The house looked different in the pale spring light, less like a shrine to the past and more like a promise waiting to be kept. The locksmith arrived within the hour, a gruff man named Pete, who asked no questions about why a young woman needed every lock changed on a house that had clearly been empty for weeks. Luna paid him in cash and waited on the front porch, Rose's keys heavy in her palm. "All done," Pete announced, handing her a set of shiny new keys. "Nobody's getting in here without your say-so." The symbolism wasn't lost on her. For the first time in her life, Luna controlled who could enter her space. She spent the morning moving her belongings into Rose's bedroom, the room where she'd sat beside her grandmother's hospital bed those final weeks. The space still smelled faintly of Rose's lavender soap and the lemon oil she'd used on the furniture. Luna unpacked her clothes into Rose's antique dresser, each drawer opening with the familiar squeak she remembered from childhood visits. By noon, she was sitting in Rose's kitchen, eating a sandwich and planning which room to tackle first, when she heard car doors slamming in the driveway. Through the lace curtains, Luna saw Patricia's BMW, followed by David's truck. Her mother's sedan pulled up last, Carol looking reluctant even from a distance. The doorbell chimed with the same melody Luna remembered from years of visits. She walked slowly to the front door, her heart hammering. "Luna?" Patricia's voice carried through the wood. "We need to talk." "We talked yesterday," Luna called back, not opening the door. "Open the door, Luna. Don't be childish." Luna's hand hesitated on the lock. Old habits died hard. Patricia's disappointed tone still triggered her instinct to comply, but she thought of Jennifer's cruel words, David's threats, and her hand fell away from the knob. "I'm not ready for visitors." "Visitors?" David's voice was sharp with indignation. "We're family. Open the damn door." "The language, David?" Carol murmured, but her voice lacked conviction. Luna pressed her back against the door, surprised by how empowering it felt to have a barrier between herself and their expectations. "Luna, this is ridiculous," Patricia continued, her voice rising. "You can't just move into Rose's house like some sort of squatter." "It's my house now," Luna said quietly, but loud enough to be heard. "Legally, maybe, but morally." "Morally," Luna's voice found strength she didn't know she possessed. "Let's talk about morality. When did you last visit her, Aunt Patricia? Really visit, not just drop by when you needed something." Silence from the other side of the door. "I was here every Saturday for 3 years," Luna continued, her voice growing steadier. "I held her hand when she was scared. I listened to her stories. I brought her groceries when she couldn't drive anymore." "That doesn't give you the right," David started. "It gives me exactly the right she chose to give me," Luna interrupted. Rose made her decision. "I'm making mine," she heard whispered, arguing, then Patricia's voice again, softer now, more manipulative. "Luna, sweetheart, we understand you're grieving, but you're not thinking clearly. Come stay with me for a few days. Let's talk this through properly." Luna closed her eyes, remembering Rose's letter. "Don't let them bully you into giving up what's yours." "I'm exactly where I need to be," Luna said, more arguing from outside, then footsteps retreating. Car doors slammed, engines started, and Luna was alone again. She slid down the door until she was sitting on the hardwood floor, her knees drawn up to her chest. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear, from the exhilaration of finally standing her ground. For the first time in her adult life, Luna had chosen herself over everyone else's comfort. The realization was both terrifying and intoxicating. For the first time in her adult life, Luna had chosen herself over everyone else's comfort. The realization was both terrifying and intoxicating. She remained on the hardwood floor for several minutes, listening to the house settle around her, creaks and sighs that had become as familiar as breathing during all those Saturday visits. But now, in the afternoon silence, she heard something different. The house felt expectant, as if it had been waiting for her to truly pay attention. Luna pushed herself up from the floor and wandered through the rooms with new eyes. Without her family's pressure weighing on her thoughts, she could see details she'd missed before. Rose had been meticulous about maintaining the house's original character, but there were subtle modifications, places where the Victorian architecture had been carefully altered. In Rose's bedroom, Luna knelt beside the window Rose had mentioned in her letter. The afternoon light revealed what she'd never noticed during those bedside vigils. One section of floorboard was slightly different in color, as if it had been removed and replaced over the years. Luna pressed her fingers along the edges until she found a spot that gave way with gentle pressure. The board lifted easily, revealing a shallow space beneath. Inside was a metal box, no bigger than a shoebox, wrapped in oilcloth. Luna's hands trembled as she unwrapped it, half expecting it to be empty, some remnant of childhood games or forgotten storage. Instead, she found herself staring at a collection that redefined everything she thought she knew about her grandmother. The photographs came first. Rose as a young woman, probably in her 20s, standing beside a man Luna didn't recognize. But it wasn't just one photo. There were dozens, spanning what looked like years. Rose in elegant dresses, Rose laughing at dinner parties, Rose cutting ribbons at business openings. The woman in these pictures bore little resemblance to the quiet grandmother Luna remembered. Beneath the photographs were business documents, contracts, partnership agreements, incorporation papers. Luna's eyes widened as she read the names. Rose Davis, President. Davis and Associates, Custom Tailoring and Design. The dates spanned from the 1960s through the early 1990s. Rose hadn't just been a seamstress. She'd owned a business. A successful one, judging by the financial statements Luna found at the bottom of the box. But it was the letters that truly shattered Luna's understanding of her family history. The correspondence was between Rose and various lawyers, dated over several decades. As Luna read, a pattern emerged that made her stomach clench with recognition. Patricia has asked for another loan. I know I said the last one was final, but she says David needs the money for his business venture. Carol's husband lost his job again. She won't ask directly, but I can see they're struggling. I've paid their mortgage for the past 3 months. Jennifer called about college tuition for the children. When I asked about the money I gave them last year, she became evasive. Letter after letter documented Rose's financial support of family members who seemed to have no intention of repaying her. Loans that became gifts, emergencies that became patterns, gratitude that curdled into expectation. One letter, dated just 5 years ago, made Luna's hands shake with anger. Mr. Harrison, I need to discuss changing my will again. Patricia came by yesterday demanding I help with her investment losses. When I explained I couldn't afford to bail her out indefinitely, she accused me of being selfish with quote, family money. She actually said I owed it to them because they were my children and grandchildren. As if 20 years of loans and gifts counted for nothing. I'm beginning to understand that to them, I'm not a person. I'm a bank account with a heartbeat. The only one who visits me is Luna, and she never asks for anything. She brings me groceries, listens to my stories, holds my hand when I'm scared. She loves me, not what I can give her. I want to change my will to reflect the difference between obligation and love. Luna's vision blurred as she read Rose's final entries in what appeared to be a private journal. Luna doesn't know about the business or the money I've given the others over the years. She sees me as her grandmother, not as an ATM. She sits with me because she wants to, not because she needs something. When I'm gone, they'll circle like vultures, telling her she doesn't deserve what I've left her. But she's the only one who deserves it. She's the only one who loved me without keeping a running tally of what I owed her in return. I pray she's strong enough to fight for what's hers. I pray I've taught her that sometimes the people who demand your love the most are the ones who've done the least to earn it. Luna sat back on her heels, the journal trembling in her hands. Rose hadn't been confused or manipulated at the end. She'd been protecting her legacy from people who saw her as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. The woman Luna had thought she knew, quiet, gentle Grandma Rose, had been a successful businesswoman who'd spent decades subsidizing her ungrateful family while they took her generosity for granted. More than that, Rose had seen the pattern clearly. She'd watched her own children and grandchildren visit only when they needed money, make promises they never intended to keep, and treat her kindness as weakness. Luna thought of Patricia's financial troubles, of David's veiled threats, of Jennifer's tears about her children's education. None of it was new. This was a pattern that had been playing out for decades, with Rose as the perpetual victim of her family's greed. But Rose had finally said enough. Luna carefully replaced everything in the box except for one document, a letter addressed to E. Hartwell, dated just 6 months before Rose's death. The letterhead showed Rose's return address, but the recipient's address was just next door, Eleanor Hartwell. Rose had been corresponding with her neighbor, and recently, Luna looked out the bedroom window toward the house next door, where an elderly woman was tending her garden in the fading light. Eleanor Hartwell had been more than just a neighbor. She'd been Rose's confidant, someone who knew the truth about the family dynamics Luna was only now beginning to understand. As darkness fell over Maple Street, Luna remained on the bedroom floor, surrounded by the evidence of her family's long history of exploitation. The house around her felt different now, not just like Rose's legacy, but like a fortress Rose had built to protect what mattered most. Tomorrow, Luna decided she would talk to Eleanor Hartwell. Tonight, she would sit with the truth Rose had hidden for so long, and finally understand why her grandmother had chosen her to carry it forward. Luna woke to the sound of someone humming in the garden next door. Through Rose's bedroom window, she could see Eleanor Hartwell moving among her flower beds, with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd been tending the same patch of earth for decades. The letter to Eleanor lay on the nightstand where Luna had left it the night before, unopened but heavy with possibility. After discovering Rose's hidden life as a businesswoman, and the family's long history of financial exploitation, Luna felt like she was standing at the edge of a vast truth she couldn't quite grasp alone. She dressed quickly and walked outside, her bare feet cold against the morning dew. The property line between the two houses was marked by an old picket fence, painted white but weathered to gray in places. Eleanor looked up from her roses as Luna approached. "You must be Luna," Eleanor said, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone used to being heard. She was smaller than Luna had expected, probably in her late 70s, but her blue eyes were sharp and assessing. "Rose talked about you constantly." "Mrs. Hartwell." Luna gripped the fence post, suddenly uncertain how to begin. "I found something yesterday. A letter Rose wrote to you." Eleanor's expression didn't change, but Luna caught the slight tightening around her eyes. "I wondered when you'd find those papers. Rose said you would, eventually. Said you were the curious type, like her." "You knew about the business documents? The money she gave my family?" Eleanor straightened, brushing soil from her gardening gloves. "Dear, I knew Rose for 42 years. I knew about everything." She paused, studying Luna's face. "The question is, what are you going to do with what you've learned?" Luna felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't understand why she never told me. About the business, about how successful she was. She let everyone think she was just a seamstress who got by on Social Security. Because Rose was a private woman who learned early that showing your hand makes you a target." Eleanor's voice softened. "Come around to the gate. This conversation requires coffee." Eleanor's kitchen was the mirror image of Rose's. But where Rose had favored antiques and floral patterns, Eleanor preferred clean lines and practical furniture. She moved with quiet efficiency, preparing coffee while Luna sat at a small table by the window. "Rose and I met in 1962, Eleanor began, settling into the chair across from Luna. "I was a new widow with 2 young children, trying to figure out how to manage on my own. Rose was just starting her tailoring business out of that front parlor." Luna wrapped her hands around the warm mug, grateful for something to anchor her. She never talked about the early days. She wouldn't have. Rose believed in looking forward, not back. Eleanor's smile was sad. But she was fierce in those days. Absolutely fierce. She started with nothing. A sewing machine her mother left her, and more determination than anyone had a right to possess. The photographs I found? She looked so confident, so different from the grandmother I knew. That's because, by the time you were old enough to remember her clearly, she'd already been worn down by 40 years of her family treating her like their personal bank account. Eleanor's tone sharpened. Your Aunt Patricia started asking for money when Rose's business really took off in the 70s. It was always an emergency, always temporary. Luna thought of the letters she'd read, the pattern of requests and empty promises. But she kept giving. Rose had a fatal flaw. She loved her family more than they deserved. Eleanor sipped her coffee, her expression thoughtful. She told herself she was helping them build better lives. But all she was really doing was enabling them to avoid building anything for themselves. Why didn't you try to stop her? Eleanor's laugh was bitter. You think I didn't try? Rose was stubborn as a mule when it came to family. She'd get so angry when I pointed out that Patricia only called when she needed money, or that David's business ventures always failed because he knew Grandma would bail him out. Luna leaned forward. But she changed her mind eventually. About 3 years ago, when you started coming around regularly, Eleanor's expression grew warmer. Rose would call me after your visits, absolutely glowing. Eleanor, she'd say, Luna brought me groceries today, and do you know what she did? She stayed for 2 hours just to hear me talk about the old neighborhood. Didn't ask for a thing. The words hit Luna like a physical blow. She'd never realized how rare that was in Rose's experience. She started testing the others, Eleanor continued. Subtle at first. She'd mentioned being worried about money, hint that she might need to sell the house. And do you know what happened? Luna shook her head, though she suspected she knew. Patricia immediately offered to, quote, help by handling the sale. David started researching property values. Jennifer began talking about how Rose would be happier in a nice retirement community. Eleanor's voice grew disgusted. Not one of them asked if she actually wanted to sell. Not one of them offered to help her stay. But I did, Luna whispered, remembering conversations she hadn't thought significant at the time. You asked her what she needed to feel safe staying in her own home. You researched home care services. You offered to help her set up grocery delivery. Eleanor reached across the table and covered Luna's hand with her own. You treated her like a person with autonomy, not like a problem to be managed. Luna felt the weight of understanding settle over her. That's when she decided to leave me the house. That's when she decided you were the only one who deserved it. Eleanor squeezed Luna's hand. Rose spent her last years watching her family circle like vultures, calculating her net worth and planning how to divide the spoils. But you just sat with her and loved her. I miss her so much, Luna said, her voice breaking. She knew you would. That's why she left you more than just a house, Luna. She left you the truth about your family, and the strength to do something about it. Eleanor stood and walked to a drawer, pulling out a thick manila envelope. She also left you this. Luna took the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was written across it in Rose's handwriting, along with the note, for Luna, to be given only after she finds the box. Inside were more business documents, but these were different. Property deeds, investment portfolios, and a letter from Rose's financial advisor detailing assets Luna hadn't known existed. She was worth almost $2 million, Eleanor said quietly. The house was just the beginning. Luna stared at the papers, overwhelmed. Why didn't she tell me? Because she needed to know you'd fight for the house first. That you'd choose to honor her memory over taking the easy path. Eleanor returned to her seat. She also needed to know you were strong enough to handle what comes next. What comes next? Eleanor's smile was sharp with approval. Now you have the resources to rebuild that house exactly the way Rose would have wanted. And more importantly, you have the power to make sure your family never manipulates anyone like this again. Luna looked at the financial documents, then out the window at Rose's house. Her house. For the first time since Rose's death, She felt something other than grief and anger. She felt purpose. She really planned all of this, didn't she? Rose was always thinking 3 moves ahead, Eleanor said. She knew exactly what your family would do when they learned about the inheritance. She also knew exactly what you'd do when you learned the truth about them. Luna folded the papers carefully, her mind already racing with possibilities. The scared, people-pleasing woman who'd sat in Patricia's living room a few days ago felt like a stranger. In her place was someone Rose had always seen, but Luna was only now beginning to recognize, a woman with her grandmother's strength and her grandmother's unwillingness to let good people be exploited by selfish ones. "There's someone else you should meet," Eleanor said, interrupting Luna's thoughts. "A contractor who worked with Rose on some renovations a few years back. Marcus Rodriguez. Good man, honest worker. And he understands what that house means to this neighborhood." Luna nodded, still processing everything she'd learned. "Eleanor, thank you. For being Rose's friend. For helping me understand." "Rose was like a sister to me," Eleanor replied simply. "Taking care of you is taking care of her legacy." "And Luna? She was so proud of you. Even before all this started, she used to say you were the best thing the Davis family had ever produced." As Luna walked back to her house, Rose's final gifts clutched in her hands, she felt the last of her doubt dissolve. She wasn't just inheriting property, she was inheriting a mission. Rose had spent decades being taken advantage of by people who confused love with obligation. Luna wouldn't make the same mistake. Marcus Rodriguez arrived at Luna's door 3 days later, toolbox in hand and Eleanor's recommendation still warm in Luna's memory. He was younger than Luna had expected, maybe mid-30s, with calloused hands and laugh lines around dark eyes that suggested someone comfortable with both hard work and easy conversation. "Eleanor says you need help with some restoration work," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent that made Luna think of summer evenings and family gatherings. "I worked with Rose a few years back on the kitchen renovation. Beautiful house." Luna invited him in, watching as his eyes took in the space, with professional assessment mixed with genuine appreciation. He moved through the rooms like someone who understood old houses, respectful of their quirks, knowledgeable about their needs. "Rose talked about you," Marcus said as they stood in the front parlor, where water stains on the ceiling revealed the roof's age. "She was proud that someone in her family wanted to preserve what she'd built here." "You knew about the family situation?" Marcus's smile was rueful. "Rose wasn't shy about her opinions. She told me once that most people see old houses as problems to be solved, but you saw this place as a story worth continuing." Luna felt warmth spread through her chest. Even to relative strangers, Rose had spoken of her with pride. They spent the morning walking through the house, Marcus pointing out areas that needed immediate attention and others that could wait. His approach was methodical but never condescending. He explained the why behind each recommendation, treating Luna as a partner in the process rather than just a check writer. "The foundation is solid," he said as they examined the basement. Rose had good instincts about maintenance, but the electrical needs updating, and some of the plumbing is original to the house. "How long would something like that take?" "Depends on how much you want to preserve versus modernize." Marcus ran his hand along a exposed beam, testing its stability. "Rose always said she wanted to keep the character while making it livable for the next generation." The phrase caught Luna off guard. "She said that?" "All the time. She used to joke that she was just the house's caretaker, keeping it ready for whoever would love it next." Marcus looked at Luna directly. "Sounds like she found the right person." They were interrupted by the sound of a car in the driveway. Through the basement window, Luna saw Patricia's BMW pulling up with aggressive precision. "Friend of yours?" Marcus asked, noting Luna's expression. "Family," Luna replied, the word carrying more weight than it should. They climbed the basement stairs to find Patricia letting herself in through the unlocked front door, her face flushed with indignation. "Luna, we need to talk. Now." Patricia's eyes flicked to Marcus dismissively. "Privately." "Actually, we're in the middle of something," Luna said, surprised by her own calm. "Marcus, this is my Aunt Patricia." "Patricia, Marcus is helping me assess what the house needs." Patricia's expression sharpened. Assess what it needs. Luna, you can't be serious about staying here. Marcus cleared his throat. I'll wait outside while you... No, Luna said firmly. Stay. This concerns the house you'll be working on. Patricia's mouth tightened at the implied dismissal of her authority. Luna, I don't know what Eleanor Hartwell has been filling your head with, but this fantasy needs to stop. You cannot afford to maintain this place. Eleanor didn't fill my head with anything. She just helped me understand what Rose really left me. What Rose left you, Patricia said, her voice rising, is a money pit that will bankrupt you within 2 years. I've talked to 3 contractors, and they all say the same thing. You're looking at over $100,000 in necessary repairs. Marcus shifted slightly, his professional instincts clearly warring with his desire to stay out of family drama. Ma'am, if I could... You could mind your own business, Patricia snapped. Luna, I'm trying to save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. By selling the house? By being realistic about what you can handle. Patricia's tone shifted to something that might have been mistaken for concern. You're a single woman with a marketing job. This house needs someone with resources, with experience. Someone like you? Patricia's pause lasted a beat too long. Someone like a developer who knows how to properly restore Victorian properties. I've been in touch with a company that specializes in historic renovations. They'd pay well above market value. Marcus made a small sound that might have been skepticism. Patricia whirled on him. You have something to say? Just that most development companies aren't interested in restoration, Marcus replied evenly. They're interested in teardowns. Historic district or not, lot value often exceeds structure value for developers. Patricia's face flushed. That's not. We wouldn't let them tear it down. You wouldn't have a choice once you sold it, Luna said quietly. Would you? The silence stretched between them. Finally, Patricia's mask slipped entirely. Luna, be reasonable. Rose is gone. Clinging to this house won't bring her back. But selling it could set you up for life. I am set up for life, Luna replied. Right here. Patricia looked around the room, at the water-stained ceiling, the worn hardwood floors, the windows that needed resealing. In this old wreck, Luna, you're living in a fantasy. Maybe, Luna said, but it's my fantasy to live in. After Patricia left, slamming the door behind her, Marcus and Luna stood in the sudden quiet of the front parlor. That was interesting, Marcus said finally. Luna laughed, surprised by the sound. That's one word for it. For what it's worth, Marcus continued, this house is worth saving. It'll take work, but it's not the disaster she's making it out to be. Even if it was, Luna said, it would still be mine to save or lose. Marcus smiled, and Luna felt something shift between them, a recognition of shared values, shared understanding of what it meant to build something worth keeping. So, he said, when do we start? Part 7. The truth revealed less than generated _story greater than the work on the house began the following Monday. Marcus arrived each morning at 7. His truck loaded with tools and the quiet confidence of someone who understood the delicate balance between preservation and progress. Luna found herself looking forward to the sound of his footsteps on the front porch, the way he'd call out, "Morning, Luna," before letting himself in. 3 weeks into the restoration, they were working in the basement, updating the electrical panel, when Marcus's crowbar hit something unexpected behind the wall studs. That's odd, he muttered, peering into the gap he'd created. Luna, can you hand me the flashlight? What he illuminated made them both freeze. Behind the wall, someone had built a small compartment. Not accidental space, but deliberately constructed storage. Rose never mentioned this, Marcus said, carefully widening the opening. Inside was a fireproof safe, significantly larger than the box Luna had found upstairs. This one required a combination, its metal surface showing the wear of decades. Should we call someone? Luna asked, her heart pounding. A locksmith? Marcus ran his fingers around the safe's edges, then looked at Luna thoughtfully. Rose's birthday. Try that first. Luna's hands shook as she turned the dial. Rose's birth year, 1930, clicked into place. The safe opened with a satisfying thunk. What they found inside redefined everything Luna thought she understood about her inheritance. The documents were meticulously organized, filed in folders labeled with each family member's name. Luna opened Patricia's folder first, her stomach clenching as she read. Loan agreements. Dozens of them, spanning 25 years. Patricia had borrowed over $300,000 from Rose, always with promises of repayment that never materialized. The paperwork showed a pattern. Initial loans for emergencies that became larger requests for business opportunities that invariably failed. But it was the correspondence that truly sickened Luna. Letters from Patricia, increasingly demanding in tone, treating Rose's money as an entitlement rather than generosity. Mother, I know you think I should be more grateful, but you have more money than you could ever spend. It's not fair to hoard it when your own daughter is struggling. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about repayment. The money was just sitting in your accounts anyway. David's business failed because you didn't give us enough startup capital. If you'd been more generous from the beginning, we wouldn't be in this position. David's folder was even worse. He'd borrowed nearly $200,000 over 15 years, each loan justified by grandiose business plans that never materialized. But unlike Patricia, David had become threatening when Rose finally started saying, "No, you owe us this. We're your family. What's the point of having money if you won't help your own blood? I know you're worth more than you claim. Don't think I haven't been paying attention to your investments. If you really cared about family, you'd understand that we need this money more than you do." Jennifer's folder revealed the most calculating exploitation. She'd borrowed money for her children's education, then used it for vacations and home improvements. When Rose discovered the deception, Jennifer had played victim with masterful manipulation. "I never meant to mislead you about the college fund, but the children needed so many things, and Tom's salary just doesn't stretch. You've never had to raise kids. You don't understand the expenses. It hurts that you don't trust me. After everything you've done for Patricia and David, I thought you'd want to help your only daughter-in-law too." But it was Carol's folder that broke Luna's heart. Her mother's borrowing had been modest, small amounts for genuine emergencies, but her letters revealed a woman trapped between loyalty to her daughter and fear of her sister. "Rose, I know Patricia will be angry if she finds out I asked you for help, but Luna's college tuition is due, and John's hours were cut again. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. Please don't tell Patricia about the loan. She already thinks you favor Luna, and I can't handle another family fight. I'm sorry to ask again, but Luna needs dental work and our insurance won't cover it. I hate that I keep coming to you, but I don't know where else to turn." At the bottom of Carol's folder was a note in Rose's handwriting. "The only one who ever apologized. The only one who tried to pay me back." Marcus sat quietly beside Luna as she read, his presence steady and non-judgmental. When she finally looked up, tears streaming down her face, he handed her a clean handkerchief without a word. "They never loved her," Luna whispered. "They just saw her as a bank account." The safe contained one more folder, labeled simply Luna. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a letter in Rose's handwriting dated just 2 months before her death. "My dearest Luna, if you're reading this, then you've found the truth about our family. I hope it doesn't hurt too much, but I suspect it explains things you've always felt but couldn't name. For 25 years, I gave my children and grandchildren everything they asked for. I told myself I was helping them build better lives, but all I was really doing was teaching them that love could be bought and sold. You were different from the beginning. Even as a little girl, you never asked me for things. You asked me for stories. You wanted my time, not my money. You saw me as a person, not a resource. When I got sick, they all had excuses for why they couldn't visit. Too busy, too far away, too uncomfortable with hospitals. But you came every day. You held my hand and listened to me ramble about the past. You brought me flowers from your own garden and read me books I'd mentioned loving decades ago. That's when I knew. You were the only one who loved me without keeping a ledger of what I owed in return. The house is yours not because you deserve my money, but because you deserved my love. The business assets I'm leaving you, and there are more than you know, aren't payment for your kindness. They're tools to help you build the life I always knew you were meant to have. Don't let them make you feel guilty for accepting what I freely gave. Don't let them convince you that their greed is somehow your fault. You are not responsible for their choices, Luna. You never were. Use what I've left you to build something beautiful. Use it to break the cycle I was too weak to break myself. Show them what it looks like when someone strong enough refuses to be used. I love you more than words can say. You were the daughter of my heart, even if not of my blood. All my love, forever. Grandma Rose. Luna clutched the letter to her chest, sobbing with a mixture of grief and vindication. Marcus's arm came around her shoulders, warm and solid and completely without expectation. She planned all of this, Luna said through her tears. Every bit of it. Sounds like Rose, Marcus replied softly. She always thought 3 moves ahead. Luna wiped her eyes and looked at the scattered documents. 25 years of evidence that her family had systematically exploited Rose's generosity while Luna had simply loved her. What do I do with all this? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do? Luna thought of Patricia's threats, David's intimidation tactics, Jennifer's manipulative tears. She thought of her mother, caught between loyalty and fear, never quite brave enough to take a stand. For the first time since Rose's death, Luna felt the full weight of her inheritance, not just the house and money, but the responsibility that came with finally knowing the truth. I want to finish what Rose started, Luna said, her voice steady despite her tears. I want to show them that some things can't be bought, sold, or manipulated. Marcus smiled, and Luna saw something in his expression that looked like pride. Then that's what we'll do. As they carefully returned the documents to the safe, Luna felt the last of her doubt dissolve. She wasn't just restoring a house. She was reclaiming a legacy, and for the first time in her life, she had the resources and the resolve to see it through. The truth would set her free. The question was whether her family was ready for the consequences of what they'd spent decades trying to hide. Luna woke to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. Patricia's name flashed on the screen, the 6th call in 20 minutes. When Luna finally answered, her aunt's voice was sharp with panic. Luna, we need to meet, today. There's been a development. 2 hours later, Luna sat in Patricia's living room facing what felt like a tribunal. David paced behind the couch while Jennifer dabbed her eyes with tissues. Carol sat in the corner, looking smaller than Luna had ever seen her. I've spoken with a lawyer, Patricia announced without preamble. About the will. Luna felt Marcus's words from the night before echo in her mind. You have the power now. Use it. What about the will? David stopped pacing and fixed Luna with what he probably thought was an intimidating stare. We have grounds to contest it. Rose's mental state in her final months. The fact that you had undue influence over her decisions. Undue influence? Luna's voice was deadly calm. Is that what you call visiting her every week? It's what we call isolating an elderly woman from her family, Patricia snapped. You poisoned her against us, made her think we didn't care. Luna reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. She placed it on the coffee table with deliberate precision. Interesting theory, she said. Should we discuss why Rose might have felt you didn't care? Patricia's eyes narrowed at the folder. What is that? Documentation. Luna opened the folder and spread the loan agreements across the table like a poker hand. 25 years of it. The silence in the room was deafening. David was the first to recover. Where did you get those? Rose kept very thorough records. Luna pulled out Patricia's correspondence, the letters growing increasingly demanding over the years. She also kept copies of everything you wrote to her. Patricia's face went white as Luna read aloud. The money was just sitting in your accounts anyway. Luna looked up. Your words, Patricia, from 2018. That's out of context. Is it? Luna pulled out another letter. If you really cared about family, you'd understand that we need this money more than you do. David, 2019. Jennifer tried a different approach, her voice quavering. Luna, you don't understand what it was like. We had expenses, children to support. Children you used as emotional leverage to get money you spent on vacations. Luna slid Jennifer's folder across the table. Rose documented everything, Jennifer. The college fund that became a kitchen renovation. The medical bills that were actually credit card debt. Carol spoke for the first time, her voice barely audible. Luna, please. Mom. Luna's voice softened as she looked at her mother. You borrowed $12,000 over 10 years. You apologized every time. You tried to pay her back. She pulled out Carol's folder, noticeably thinner than the others. Rose kept a separate note about you. The only one who ever said thank you. Tears rolled down Carol's cheeks. Patricia rallied, her voice gaining strength from desperation. None of this matters legally. You can't prove undue influence with old loan documents. You're right, Luna interrupted, but I can prove something else. She pulled out the final document, Rose's letter explaining her reasoning. I can prove that Rose knew exactly what she was doing and why. As Luna read Rose's final words aloud, she watched her family's faces change. Patricia's anger crumbled into something approaching shame. David's bluster faded into uncomfortable silence. Jennifer stopped pretending to cry. She knew, Luna said quietly, folding the letter. She knew that you saw her as a bank account, not a person. She knew that your visits always came with hands outstretched. And she chose to break the cycle. Patricia made one last desperate play. Luna, we're still family. We can work this out. No. Luna's voice carried a finality that surprised even her. We can't, because you're not here to work anything out. You're here to take what isn't yours. She stood, gathering the documents. Rose left me everything because I was the only one who never asked her for anything. I won't dishonor that by giving it to people who spent decades treating her generosity like an entitlement. David's mask finally slipped completely. You sanctimonious bitch. You think you're better than us because you played the devoted granddaughter? I think I'm better than you because I loved her, Luna said simply. And that's something money can't buy. As Luna walked toward the door, Carol called out. Luna, wait. Luna turned back to see her mother standing, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Carol whispered. I'm so sorry. You're right about everything. Luna felt her heart crack open. Mom? No, let me say this. Carol's voice grew stronger. I was a coward. I let Patricia bully me, let the family pressure override what I knew was right. Rose didn't leave you the house because she was confused. She left it to you because you were the only one brave enough to love her without conditions. Patricia started to protest, but Carol held up her hand. I'm done choosing the easy path over the right one, Carol said, looking directly at her daughter. I'm done letting other people's greed make decisions for me. Luna felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but the possibility of it. The house will always be open to you, Mom, Luna said quietly, when you're ready to visit someone you love instead of something you want. As Luna drove home, she felt the weight of 28 years of people-pleasing finally lift from her shoulders. She'd chosen herself, chosen Rose's legacy, chosen the difficult path of standing alone rather than the easy path of giving in. For the first time in her life, Luna Davis was exactly where she belonged. The silence that followed the confrontation was profound. Not empty, but full of possibility. Luna returned home to find Marcus installing the new kitchen cabinets they'd chosen together, his steady presence a welcome contrast to the chaos she'd left behind at Patricia's house. How did it go? He asked, looking up from his work without judgment or curiosity, just the quiet concern of someone who cared about her well-being. It's over, Luna said simply, and felt the truth of those words settle into her bones. The legal threats never materialized. David's bluster about contesting the will evaporated when faced with Rose's meticulous documentation and the financial reality that lawyers cost money he didn't have. Patricia stopped calling entirely, her silence more telling than any words could have been. Jennifer made one final attempt 2 weeks later, showing up at Luna's door with tears and a story about her children needing medical care. Luna listened patiently, then offered the name of a financial counselor and a gentle suggestion that Jennifer's husband might consider getting a second job. But Rose always helped when we needed it, Jennifer protested. Rose is gone, Luna replied. And the bank is closed. The restoration work continued through spring and into summer. Luna discovered she had an intuitive understanding of the house's needs, as if Rose's years of careful maintenance had transferred to her through some genetic memory. She and Marcus worked side by side, their partnership deepening from professional to personal, with the natural ease of two people discovering they shared the same vision. Carol began visiting on Sundays, tentative at first, as if testing whether Luna's invitation had been genuine. These visits were different from their previous relationship, built on mutual respect rather than family obligation. Carol helped with small restoration tasks, her skilled hands surprisingly good at stripping old paint and refinishing wood. "I should have stood up to Patricia years ago," Carol said one afternoon as they worked together on the front porch spindles. "You stood up when it mattered," Luna replied, and meant it. Eleanor became a regular presence, appearing with fresh-baked cookies and stories about the neighborhood's history. She and Carol developed an unlikely friendship, bonded by their shared love for Luna and their memories of Rose. "Your grandmother would be so proud," Eleanor told Luna one evening as they sat on the restored front porch, watching Marcus replace the last of the exterior trim. "Not just of the house, but of who you've become." Luna looked at the house around her, walls that no longer showed water damage, floors that gleamed with fresh polish, windows that let in light without drafts. But more than the physical transformation, she saw what Rose had really left her: the courage to build a life based on her own values rather than others' expectations. Marcus's work was nearly finished, but he showed no signs of leaving. They'd grown comfortable in each other's company, sharing morning coffee and evening conversations that stretched long into the darkness. Luna found herself thinking less about what she'd lost and more about what she was building. "What happens when the house is perfect?" she asked him one night as they sat in Rose's, now her, kitchen. "Houses are never perfect," Marcus replied with a smile. "They're living things. They need constant attention, constant love." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "Kind of like the people who live in them." Luna felt her cheeks warm. "Is that your professional opinion?" "That's my personal opinion," he said quietly. The woman who'd sat in Patricia's living room just months ago, apologizing for wanting to keep her inheritance, felt like a stranger now. In her place sat someone Rose had always seen, but Luna was only now beginning to recognize. A woman strong enough to choose love over obligation, growth over comfort, authenticity over approval. The house held its memories close, but it was also becoming something new. Not a shrine to the past, but a foundation for the future. Luna could feel Rose's approval in the way afternoon light fell through the restored windows, in the way the floors no longer creaked with age, but sang with renewed life. She was home. Finally, completely, unapologetically home. And for the first time in her 28 years, Luna Davis knew exactly where she belonged. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.